All right, y'all. We are going to talk today about URSCA, which stands for Undergraduate Research Scholarly and Creative Activity. And this is a program, it's a national program that supports undergraduate research. One of the strategic goals of River Falls, and really a priority for the university, is to encourage and support undergraduate research. And one of the ways they do that is through the URSCA program. And so this is something that provides funding and support for undergraduate research. And it's a way for you to conduct research outside of the classroom. Really, the point of URSCA is to um, build research capacity for students. And this research is part of really growing the body of knowledge. So it's not, the nice thing about it is that because it's being conducted outside of the classroom, you can focus on your particular interest. You're not constrained by trying to fit a research project into a, particular class or classroom setting. You work very closely with a faculty mentor, and so you may be supporting that faculty member's research, and doing independent research in support of kind of a larger research effort. You could be doing just your own research on your own interests, in collaboration with the faculty member. And so it's a really great way to expand your knowledge base, expand your skill set. For those of you who may be considering grad school, having done undergraduate research is going to make you really attractive to grad schools, because when you go to apply for graduate school and you can say, look, here's research work that I've done, here's the product, whether it's a poster or a research paper, whatever it might be, having that on your resume and your application for graduate school is going to make you really attractive to grad schools that you want to attend. And the advice that I give to all of my students, and I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to hopefully beat it into your heads: if you go to grad school, do everything in your power to get it paid for. So for some people, that means going to work for a few years and finding an employer that will pay for them to go back to school and get a graduate degree. Or for most others, it's getting a graduate assistantship, that will pay for your tuition and oftentimes pay you a stipend. So you're actually getting paid to go to grad school. That's how I got my master's and my PhD, was through a graduate assistantship. And for my master's degree, my position was a research assistant. So I wasn't teaching. I wasn't like doing teaching labs and those kinds of things that master's students often do. I was actually working on a project. I went to University of Denver, and I was working on doing GIS work for the Stapleton redevelopment project. So Stapleton was the international airport in Denver. They built a new airport, shut down Stapleton, and went through this massive redevelopment planning effort to figure out what to do with that property. It was kind of right in the middle of Denver. And so they needed a ton of mapping and data analysis work to identify environmental conditions on the site, to identify um, uh, to develop maps and plans for the design of what they were going to do with the site, and eventually actually to model the environmental impacts from different development patterns on the site. So that was my work. And so that project was 2 years, paid for my degree, got me through the master's program. And so having research under your belt, having that on your resume when you apply for grad schools, it makes it more likely that you will be offered assistantships and other scholarships to pay for your graduate education. So it's a huge opportunity. I would strongly encourage all of you to consider pursuing an URSCA project. And I know for the honors program, you have to do a research project as part of the honors program, and URSCA may be a way to help fund it. So I'm going to walk through some of the benefits of the URSCA program. So funding sources, there's a couple different grants that are available through URSCA. So the Falcon Travel Grant here is a funding source that pays for travel to present your research. So if you develop an URSCA project, you maybe do a poster, or you develop a professional presentation that you want to present at a professional conference. For example, I'm a member of the American Association of Geographers. They have a conference every year, and if you did research related to geography, wanted to present at AAG, then the Falcon Travel Grant would provide up to $1,000 to pay for your costs to travel to that conference. So it would pay for your registration, maybe your flight, maybe you could share a hotel room with another student or whatever, and that would help pay for that. And so you can get up to $1,000 if you are presenting your research or your poster at a conference. If you are just doing it as a professional development opportunity, not necessarily presenting original research, you can get up to $400. And if you're just attending, you can get up to $300. So again, just some different availabilities to you. The application dates are, well, they're not posted yet, but there's a round in the fall. I think it's usually in like early October, so pretty soon after the start of the fall semester. And then the spring one is in, I think, early April. So you'll definitely, if you're interested in doing that for next year, you'll want to jump on that pretty quickly. The undergraduate stipends and expense grants, the USE grant, is funding that will actually pay for you to conduct your research. So the USE grants, again, 2 rounds there, one in the fall, pretty early in the fall, like October, and then the one in the spring is in April. And what the funding pays for, if you do an individual project, it's up to $2,000 in supplies and expenses. So if you're, say, conducting water quality testing as your research, you could use some of that funding from the USE grant for whatever supplies you need to do that water quality testing. So collection equipment, things like that. So it's a way to fund what you need to be successful in your research. If you're not doing something that requires supplies and equipment, you can actually apply that funding to financial aid. So again, you can apply for up to $2,000 to support your financial aid. And that money just goes into your student account to cover your tuition costs. So if you want to apply for the USE funding, what you need to do is develop an itemized budget and timeline for your application. And you want it to be obviously very specific, very detailed, justifying your costs. And you want to make sure that you're working with your mentor, and I'll talk about the mentor here in a second, to make sure that you are building that budget and that timeline in a realistic fashion. So supplies and expenses either go through the mentors department, so that you would work with your mentor to set those up. And occasionally, depending on circumstances, you may get the funding directly to yourself to pay for what you need, but generally it goes through your mentor department to take care of all of that purchasing stuff. And so things like various equipment you need, books, software, lab supplies, printing, travel to conduct research, all of those expenses can be covered by the USE grant. So say you're conducting research on a rock formation in northern Wisconsin. You could use your USE grant to pay for the expenses of you traveling to do that research. So it's different from the travel grant. The travel grant is specifically for travel to a conference to present your work. The USE grant would pay for travel to actually conduct your research. So if you were conducting research offsite, the USE grant would help fund those costs. So kind of want to make sure that point gets clarified, that the travel grant is not for travel to conduct research, it's travel to present research. And again, you can use it for your financial aid. If you're conducting research with a collaborator, maybe another student or two, you can request up to $3,500 in supplies and expenses and financial aid. And if you do financial aid, that money would get split between the two or however many were on the team. So you can apply for a use grant to cover both. You don't have to use it only for supplies and expenses or financial aid. So if you were doing a project, you could apply for $1,000 to cover expenses and supplies and travel for research, and another $1,000 to financial aid. So you can split it up in $500 increments. And so that's something you would definitely want to, talk with your mentor about and figure out how you wanted to set your budget. And the important thing about URSCA is that you do have to present your research. So the university has a couple of different opportunities to present research. In December, there is the URSCA Gala. And so that's a big event where it's a huge poster presentation. This picture here is actually what the gala looks like, where students present their research or their creative work. So, you can see the picture here was art. So you can get funding for like art projects, those kinds of things. So it's not just scientific research. It can be for other types of projects as well. And the way the fall gala works is that you have your poster present and you stand by it. People come through, ask questions. You can discuss your research and your findings with the people coming through. It's a pretty big deal. I don't know if any of y'all went to it this past fall. That's in December, right towards the end of the semester. In the spring, there's also the WISIS Symposium. And so that's a University of Wisconsin system-wide undergraduate research symposium. So it's an opportunity to present your research to a larger audience. And so those are kind of the two main modes of presentation. But if you have a professional organization that you want to present it to, or if you write a paper and get it published, that can qualify as your presentation of research. But you do have to present your research in some form or fashion to the public as part of the URSCA grant requirements. So the way the process works is that you would find a mentor with whom you want to work, and you would set up your project with them. So that mentor could be your advisor. It could be a professor that you had a class with that was in a topic that you really liked and you want to do research on that topic. It could be somebody completely outside of your department. Just if you have a burr in your saddle to do research about a particular subject, you can work with any faculty member to serve as your mentor to conduct your research. As part of being your mentor, that faculty member does receive a small stipend as well. And that money, that it's 1/3 of the amount that you're awarded. So if you're awarded $1,000, your mentor gets $300. And that money goes into basically your mentor's research fund. So they can use that money to fund their travel to professional conferences, fund their research, pay for professional organization memberships, those kinds of things. So it benefits the mentor to work with you, and the mentor then helps you set up your project, develop your ideas, put together your application, and then supervises your research and helps you put together your final product. So it's an important relationship. And again, it helps to establish a really good relationship with your mentor that can benefit you for reference letters, for, again, grad school applications, job applications, because you've worked very closely with that person and they know you well and will be able to write an excellent letter of recommendation to you, as well as they may have connections at grad schools that can boost your application potential. If you want to go to the school maybe where they got their PhD or whatever for grad school, they can maybe help you with that process. So URSCA is a great thing. Again, you'll want to think of an idea of research, and that's actually the assignment that goes along with this lecture, is that I want you to come up with a list of 5 to 8. I think it was originally 10, but we'll say 5 to 8 research ideas of things that you might consider for an URSCA project. And just to give you an idea of what some of the projects have been in the past, you can see the variety of projects that have been approved in the past. So this one's Innovative International Practicums in Teacher Education, so teaching and pedagogy. Barley's effectiveness is a cover crop. Vertical farming. Let's see here. So interactive film project, right? So it's not always just related to animated music video. So it could be something, art related and not necessarily like hard science research. So certainly be aware of that. And for those of you who maybe are thinking like, oh, URSCA is not for me because I don't do, hard sciences, you can qualify for URSCA funding to conduct creative. That's the creative part of it, is supporting artistic activities and artistic research. So definitely work with a mentor to put together your ideas and do well to apply for that. So if I roll down here, I can show you the ones that were my students were qualified for. Let me find them here real quick. Hold on. So I just realized that this is from last year, not this year, so my students aren't going to be on here. But again, you can look through the list, and it's all on the website. So if you go to uwrf.edu/URSCA, you can find all of this information related to the URSCA program, URSCA funding, all of those things. There are workshops and trainings that are provided to help you understand research, how it works, how to pick a mentor. So these are offered every semester. And so just keep an eye on the Falcon Daily, or just check the website, obviously in the fall when you come back. And if you're interested in doing an URSCA project, I would maybe reach out to, once you kind of have your ideas and your list of potential projects, I would maybe start talking to faculty that you might want to consider to be a mentor and help work with them to clarify the ideas. And I would just some stuff about research. We tend to want to ask really big questions when we start a research project, and it's important to understand that you're not going to answer a really big question. Even a PhD dissertation, right, which is like the ultimate of research, isn't asking a giant question. Your research really needs to focus on a small question, not small in terms of unimportant or insignificant, but small in terms of manageable and achievable. So again, even a PhD dissertation that you're looking at 4 or 5 years of your life working on ends up being a fairly small question. So if you're talking about an URSCA project you're doing in a semester, maybe 2, be realistic in what kinds of projects you can accomplish and what kind of research you can conduct. But again, it's very flexible, and your mentor will help you frame the questions, frame the activities, frame the program, so that you can be successful. So I would encourage all of you to consider URSCA in the next year or two, and again, look to the website for details about workshops, trainings, deadlines for applications, all of that stuff, and your faculty mentor will certainly help with that. So the assignment for this week, for this lecture, is to come up with that list of potential URSCA projects. It doesn't have to be like a page on each one. Just come up with your ideas, maybe a sentence or two about each of the ideas, why you think it's important, and explain it so that when I read it, I can understand what your what your idea is. So again, just a list of maybe 5 to 8 with a sentence or two explaining what the research is about and why it matters. So that's it for that one, and upload that to Canvas when you can. Thank you.